Let's explore role confusion on today's Ask a Shrink. If the role is not healthy, then there's going to be role confusion. The role can follow them way into adulthood, perhaps for a lifetime. It all starts at childhood. So role confusion can play out in adulthood in terms of being very disappointed with choices you've made in your life, not sure about your place in life. This could mean sort of just drifting from job to job, relationship to relationship. But at the core, it's being unsure about who you really are, what you're all about, because you've always had to play a role. Now, first, I'll just talk about some of the major roles that are common in lots of dysfunctional families. One is that a child is put into the scapegoat role. They're the recipient of all the angst of the problems in the family. It's all heaped on them. They're blamed for things that really have nothing to do with the actual scapegoated child. That child is usually completely fine, but how are they going to deal with being the scapegoat? That's a role. They're placed in that role by their own parents. Another primary role is the caretaker role. This could easily happen when there's a parent who's an alcoholic in the family. But of course, so many other reasons as well. The child is a victim of some kind of abuse, particularly emotional incest plays a big role here. And the child is raised to be the people pleaser, the chameleon, the hero role, where the child just thinks they have to step in and make everything work. They're going to be the knight in shining armor because everybody else is a mess. I mean, whatever it is, there's this emotional chaos or physical chaos at home. And so the hero needs to step in and take control, and then they're adored for being the hero by the mother or the father or both. And so hence the hero role takes over. There's also the role of the comedian or the comic in the family. They had to do anything to just bring the stress level down. It came from a good place in them, so they think if they crack jokes, turn humor in on themselves, even put themselves down perhaps. But whatever it is, they have to make light of something, make it be funny because there's so much pressure at home. They do anything to distract from the more serious issues, which of course the serious issues are going on every single day almost. And so now that child believes, well, I am the comic. People come to me for comic relief. They seem to like my humor, hence the role now is being cemented in. Then there's the identified patient role. That's where, let's say a kid struggles with some developmental issues, some physical problems, maybe there's emotional problems. Could be just normal stages growing up, and the parents almost will invent some problems for this child to have because they need and want an identified patient. Now, of course, it's easier to do for the parents if the child is actually struggling with some type of issue, but either which way, that child is being singled out, pointed to, sort of like a scapegoat, but it's a bit different. All the trouble in the family must revolve around, the attention needs to go to, we must focus on this identified patient, which of course is a way for the parents not to deal perhaps with their own troubles in their marriage, not look at any other kind of abuse, so everything gets focused on the identified patient. Families may rally to focus to help this identified patient because of course that's a way to distract from looking inward at their own stuff, looking at the actual overall, the systemic family dysfunction. The background child role is the role of a child who just wants to blend in. You can't blame them when they're little. There's so much chaos. They just want to blend into the wallpaper. They want to be a fly that's watching on the wall because God forbid if you get drawn into all this chaos. So they lose their voice. They remain very silent perhaps. Of course, they want to keep themselves safe and also not rock the boat any more than it already is. This could also be called a lost child role. And of course, there's the golden child role, which ties into being a victim of emotional incest. I've done many videos about this. You can check those out. And they emotionally take over one of their children for their own benefit. And this is very common with either one or both of the parents if they suffer from narcissistic personality disorder or have traits of narcissism. So with this role confusion, when a child takes that into adulthood, if they're not clear about the parental impact, how this started when they were very young, then of course they're going to struggle. They'll probably struggle with a lack of confidence because how can I leave my role? My role is who I am. They don't really know who they are because they always had to be in the role to survive. This, of course, means a low self-esteem, very low self-worth, which means you're willing to take abuse from others. If you're in a relationship, let's say, you want to continue the role where you come secondary, where you're more of the doormat. Other mental health issues like depression, trouble with following through with different things in life, a commitment, a path. Because how could a clear path be there for a child when they're always having to be in the role of something? Think back when you were growing up, the need to fit in, to feel a sense of belonging, to get approval from others. This could be friends or family members. To feel like, I'm okay. We all need that growing up to some degree. Now, it's amazing what kids will do to fit in, to feel like they're part of something. Because they're so vulnerable around this area, if you're raised by toxic parents, then a child may be at the mercy of what the parent wants of them, what the parent expects of them, how the parent trains them or conditions them. It can all be very confusing if it's coming from a dysfunctional place within the parent. So we're talking about identity development here, which ties into the role that we're then playing. Because a child will take on a role to please whoever. Definitely to please the parents, that's initially where it starts. When they don't feel good enough, when they're not allowed to share who they really are, their opinion about things, when they're put into the role perhaps of being a mini husband or a mini wife in terms of the emotional support they're supposed to provide to the parent. If anything like this is going on in the family, of course there's dozens more examples, then the child may really latch on to the role. Psychologist Erik Erikson came up with different stages of development. Erikson said that psychosocial development really happens between the years of age 12 to 18. This could be the years that the child is being forced into even more of a role. It was so cemented perhaps when they were 3, 4, 5 years old that now that they were 12 to 18, they just naturally assume the role. Well, think about how that must be affecting their development. So let's look in a slightly different way how this can play out. Let's say a child's being trained at an early age to be there for their mother, be there for their father. And imagine a child wanting to please their parent, trying to keep up with all this. And of course, they probably will and do. If there's no other parent to step in and save them or help them through this ridiculousness, so now they're entrenched in their role. That could be the listener, the good boy, the good girl, the rebellious one. They could go that route with it. In addition, of course, to the ones I mentioned at the beginning. And it gets a little more interesting if we get into gender identification in terms of the masculine role. What does that mean? For a girl, maybe she takes on the dumb blonde role. I get more attention like this. And that can even influence a child's sexual attraction. They may not know who or what they're attracted to, and they may want to play that out. So sexual orientation could definitely be a part of what happens with role confusion. The whole point is it's a big gray area. It's very insidious. It's hard to unthread it and be very black and white about it because it's very broad, and that's why it's important that parents not force children into different roles, because when a child feels and believes that they need to take on a role, it will indeed lead to role confusion and impact their life in many, many negative ways, none healthy whatsoever. What a child needs to be able to do is find their own identity, what they're all about, and be given wings. Role confusion is a very broad topic. Please let me know any comments you may have in the comments section below. Please subscribe to my mental health YouTube channel if you like these kind of videos. And until next week, this is Brad Shore signing off from Ask a Shrink.